Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly camera series talks. I'm giving real-world experiences about cameras that I use a lot, and hopefully they're different than just regular camera reviews and more useful to you if you're thinking about, could I use that camera? Would that be good for me? And I'll try to share with you the ins and outs, the goods and the bads of each camera. So today I want to talk to you about my workhorse. This is the Nikon D610. I picked this up somewhere along the line because it was inexpensive. It was on sale, maybe at a camera store with very low shutter count. And for a digital camera, I want to use a full frame sensor. This isn't the latest body. This isn't the 850 with the 10 million megapixels. This is only 24 megapixels. That's plenty for what I'm working with and what I'm doing with it. And it's even plenty for commercial work. But this is a full frame body that I have set up so simply. I have it set up for back button focus, and I usually use it on aperture priority. So this is the camera I use to shoot virtually all of the Roy Stryker project. If you go to roystryker.com, Roy, S-T-R-Y-K-E-R.com, you'll see all of my pictures. I actually tag what camera was used with them, and they're all the D610. Because until this goes down, this is the camera I don't have to worry about. This is the camera that goes into the car. This isn't the camera that I use for all my commercial shoots. I have a pair of D750s for that. This is the camera that maybe the sensor gets a little dirty after lots of lens changes. Whatever. I have to use the camera. I can't baby it. I don't carry a case. I don't carry a cap. I change out the lens sometimes. Right now there's a 28 f2 on it. Sometimes I'll throw on a 20 or sometimes I'll throw on a 50. But this is a pretty common setup. And my goal is I want a camera that when I'm looking for things to shoot for that Roy Stryker project, I'm shooting something where I need to have a digital camera because it's going to be used for online publication, but it's not something that I really care about printing. Something like the protests and the rallies for the different political candidates I've been shooting. Those, I don't want to print those photos. Those are just for documentation and for putting on Roy Stryker. This is the camera for that. And it's got this big goofy eye cup because I wear glasses, and my glasses inevitably get scratched up by viewfinders, and I really don't like looking through scratched glasses. So this really helps. But the idea of, what do you need? Do you need the latest and the greatest? Find a deal. Wait until the opportunity shows up, and then buy it because it's a good deal. You can make art out of any camera in the last 10 years. They're all good. You could use a GF1 Panasonic, which is only 10 megapixels, and you could put photographs up in a museum gallery wall. The point is, what are you doing with it? Don't spend that much money, especially for something that you're going to use constantly, and it's going to get a little bit worn. It's going to get a little bit beat up. There's a little bit of tape on here because there's a little panel that just wants to stick up. And so I just put a little bit of gaffer tape on it. It's fine. This isn't a luxury item. This is a tool to make photographs. And what you make matters way more than how many megapixels and what the latest online charts say about your camera and your lens and your sensor. I don't care if you give a poor photographer a D850, they can't do anything with it. And if you give a great photographer a D90, they're going to still create great art. I made a book with a D90 when the D90 was still somewhat current. It was a little bit out of date, and it was a crop sensor camera. And I made a whole book on it with it. And you can do the same thing with a D610. Would I recommend it? You bet. Would I recommend a leather strap that doesn't say Nikon? Yes. I don't like the branded straps. I find like the branded straps are, I'm not looking to advertise what model I have and what brand I have. I just want to have a camera strap that carries the camera, and this brown leather strap is a lot nicer to me costs about 25 bucks online. And I have a strap that now goes with this camera, doesn't advertise, and this is my go-to. So a lot of people wonder, like, he's a pro, what's he use on his personal use? What's he really using? Is he using only the latest and the greatest? No. This 28 I only picked up because it was at a local yard sale and a woman was selling a bunch of her Nikon gear. And I think she sold it for $75. And I'm like, for $75, I'll buy a 28 f2 lens. I'm not always a 28 shooter. I'm usually a 20 or a 24. But most of my 20s and my 24s, none of them go to f2. So this one does. So that becomes an inexpensive addition. But I didn't go out seeking that 28. I bought it because it was in front of me and a good deal. You can save a lot of money and make a lot more work if you wait until the great deal's in front of you and then snap it up. But don't buy it just because you want it now. When you want it now, you pay through the nose. And I don't see any reason to buy anything new. That just means that somebody else didn't take the hit when it was first purchased. This was used, and I'm sure it was at least a half of what it would have cost new. Why would I not buy it? It had maybe 2,000 or 3,000 actuations on the shutter. It was at a camera store. It's the kind of thing you have to find the deals when they show up, but don't buy them when you want them. Just be open to them and you'll find them. And you'll put more money into making art. The difference that you don't spend, go take a trip. Go travel somewhere. If you find that you don't have anything interesting to shoot, maybe you need to change what you can shoot based on where you are. Because accessibility creates great opportunities, right? So you can make art. This is a camera that's not the latest camera. Still incredibly fine. Perfectly good. I'm doing several projects with it. The D610, highly recommend it. And any camera that you find that is in that same league of a full frame body sensor. I do find that when you see the APS sensor cameras and some of like the amateur or serious enthusiast cameras like the D70 back in the day, if you look through their viewfinders were quite small. And it felt like you were looking through a tunnel at a rather small image. And that's not the case on the D610. So that's certainly an issue. And if ever you find a Nikon that doesn't have the front wheel and the back wheel, one of them controls shutter and one controls aperture. And some of the lower price models, when they first came out, they had one and you had to assign it and then switch it to make it adjust the other. And it's kind of annoying for me to not have control over both shutter speed and aperture with two different wheels. So those are little things that I would say this works well and does well. It's not the latest camera, but it's certainly quite capable. And because of the value that I got from it at a good price and the ability to take it everywhere, and it's not been in any way a problem, it's just been working. I consider it a workhorse and I highly recommend it, the D610 Nikon. All right, that's today's photography talk. The gear I really use, that's what I'm talking about on these videos, my real world experiences. All right, if you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon, and I'll be back next week and we'll talk another camera that I use in my work. As always, here's to good light.